For many people, the perfect life is one that is peaceful and filled with love. For those of us who are lucky enough to achieve this, I'm sure there is always a lingering fear that the rug will be swept out from under you and you will realize that the fantasy life you thought you were living was actually a mirage. That the ones who were supposed to provide you with love and protection were actually inviting your destruction. That the people you placed your trust in were nothing more than wolves in sheep's clothing. Hi, I'm Cam,
And I'm Dev.
and you're listening to Criminalish, a true crime podcast where two best friends trade stories ranging from the wild and wacky to the downright messed up. So, Dev, today I'll be talking about the murder of Desiree Sunford, which took place in Yakima, Washington in April 2013. Have you heard of this case before?
I don't believe so. It's not sounding familiar by name only.
Well, by the end of this episode, you definitely will be familiar with the ins and outs and everything going on in this case, and more importantly, who Desiree Sunford was before she was murdered.
And as always, I'm looking forward to learning about Desiree and figuring out who she was and hearing you tell her story. But before we get into that, what we drinking, friend?
So, friend, today we are drinking a little mixture, a little cocktail. This is that lemon drop Kettle One mixture that we had before that was a little sour, a little hard on the tongue. Well, we zhuzhed it up. We added some Simply Peach and champagne.
Beautiful.
So I'm very excited to see the evolution of that first drink that we had.
I'm excited as well because I'm pretty sure I said, if you put this in some champagne, it would eat.
So, okay, let's put that to the test. That's pretty good.
I like it. It's really good.
Yeah. And you can even make that like a little popsicle for the summer.
Ooh.
Put it in one of the molds.
There you go. I don't know. The liquor content might be too hot for it to freeze. Maybe you put it in a ninja slushy.
True.
That's what you do.
True. So I don't have any trigger warnings for this case. If some do come up, we'll be sure to add them to the description. But I'm going to go ahead and get started with the story. So Desiree Sunford was born Desiree Cast on August 26, 1982 in Moses Lake, Washington, to her parents, Keith and Connie. We also know that she had at least one brother, Casey, but I don't have a full report on any other potential siblings that she had. According to obituary records, we do know that Desiree unfortunately lost her father, Keith, in 1994 when she was just 12 years old. However, I'm not sure how exactly this affected her family. I can imagine that it was a tough experience, especially losing your father that young.
Absolutely. Even if you and your father weren't necessarily close or anything like that, it's still hard to lose a parent and then lose out on any potential relationship you could have had.
Exactly. We also know that as a child and teenager, she was a member of 4-H. And I don't know if you remember this. I was also a 4-H kid. So for anybody who doesn't know what 4-H is, it's basically a youth organization that focuses on developing in kids the 4-H's: head, heart, hands, and health. And this can involve doing things like camping, learning STEM subjects, gardening, cooking, and caring for animals. And basically, the goal of 4-H is that these experiences are supposed to make you a better adult. And based on what we know about Desiree, I can say that they definitely succeeded. On top of being involved in 4-H, she also took dance classes and played softball. And while I'm sure there are many teen girls who were doing dance and playing softball, one of her hobbies that I think is really unique to her was restoring her 1969 Chevy Chevelle. This was something that she used to do with her dad and continued on even through adulthood.
Okay, we love a car girly. We love a car girly. But that also clarifies to me that losing her dad probably was really hard on her, especially if they had a relationship of building cars together. I don't know if people really understand, but there's something special about being a girl and learning about cars from your father. I learned a lot about cars from my father and all of his like weird restrictions and rules that he has for every car that I get into. And it's truly something that like really bonds you to your dad. It's really amazing. So I love that. And I love that she kept going and kept doing it.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that was mentioned in her obituary that I thought was really funny was she actually really liked going to like auto shops and listing off all the parts she needed and watching the store clerks being like, how do you know what that is?
Yeah, that's another part that's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you go in and you don't look like you can get scammed.
Yeah.
They be tricked out. They be tricked out.
So Desiree, who is known affectionately by her loved ones as Desi, graduated high school in 2000 and went on to get her bachelor's in education from Central Washington University. In November 2003, she married her high school sweetheart, Scott Sunford. Shortly after their wedding, Scott was deployed to Iraq, and while he was deployed, Desiree began working as a substitute teacher as she continued her education. And during Scott's second deployment, she would go on to get her master's in education in 2008. After Scott returned, they moved to Yakima, Washington. He got a job as a mechanic, and Desiree would end up getting a job as an arts teacher at a local middle school. And you know how some of the teachers, they there for the check, they there for the benefits, they be watching the clock to leave. Desiree was not one of those. She was participating in after school activities with the kids and was even going to art competitions with the kids. The kids loved her. She was an active and involved teacher.
Yeah, and those are the ones you never forget.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the teachers that you will be 50 and be like, man, I really miss Coach Burr.
Right. Exactly. Miss Ferrari.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Love her down.
Yes.
And her husband. I always thought her husband was cute, but I was like 12 and obviously I had no chance with him.
Right. Fortunately so.
Fortunately so.
But anyways, regardless of the teachers that we loved, Desi was loved by the kids. She was loved by her friends. She was loved by her family. And like I said, a lot of her passions carried through adulthood because she and Scott actually carried on the tradition of working on that 1969 Chevy Chevelle. And she actually ended up purchasing a motorcycle. And she and Scott were actually members of the Combat Veterans United Motorcycle Organization and would participate in multiple charity projects as part of this organization.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Motorcycle girl, car girl, arts girl.
Sounding like that girl.
Exactly. And in late 2012, Scott and Desiree would buy their first home together. However, just 6 months after they moved in, someone broke into their home while they were away. This person broke in by smashing a glass pane in the back door and stole a gun, laptop, and jewelry. In response to this, Scott boarded up the broken glass and installed a security system. But it seemed like after they installed it, they were having some issues with the system where it would be super sensitive to the smallest things. So as some sort of trial period, the security system was actually set up to only send alerts to Scott and Desiree and not immediately to the police. So all this brings us to April 6, 2013, when Scott drove about 2 hours away to the Tri-Cities area for his aunt's funeral. Although the funeral was only a couple hours away, his family was going to have a breakfast the next day, so he decided to spend the night. At 3:24 a.m. on Sunday, April 7th, Scott received an alarm notification from their security system indicating that someone had entered the home. He received additional notifications at 3:27 and 3:28 a.m. Because he and Desiree had already had issues with the alarm system being extra sensitive, he assumed Desiree or their dog had just accidentally triggered the alarm and went back to sleep. However, when he woke up that morning and later began his drive home, he started to get worried when he couldn't get in touch with Desiree. While he was still on the road, he called 911 and asked for a wellness check and told them about the alarm notifications he'd received. When he got home, he could see that the boards he'd used to cover the previously broken back door had been removed. And rather than going inside to investigate, he called police again and told them that he would not go inside or touch anything and would instead wait for them. But he wasn't sure if his wife was inside or if she was hurt. When police arrived at the scene about 15 minutes later, Scott was still outside all this time. They entered the home and discovered Desiree's body. She'd been shot 9 times, with one of those being a fatal shot to the head. Evidence at the scene also showed that Desiree had struggled and attempted to crawl away from her killer.
What the hell, man? The sweet art teacher? That's crazy and devastating.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yes, it's weird that the husband didn't want to go inside the house, but also, is it actually that weird? Like, if you think there is some kind of crime or something taking place, like, people do tell you don't rush into the house because you don't know who's in there, if they're still in there, if they're waiting for you to come home. I can see both sides of this. I can think it's weird that you didn't go in the house to check on your wife, but also understand that you don't know who is and is not in your house at that moment.
I could see that too. I will say though, the notifications happen at 3:30 in the morning. And at this point, I think it's about afternoon time. So it's almost 12 hours later after those notifications first came in. And he also is a combat veteran. He is armed. So I can see the fear, but also I think where my initial suspicion came in was like, if your wife is alive and needs your help in there, wouldn't you go in?
Yeah, but I can also think about this way too. Yeah, he's armed and he's a combat veteran, but does he want to have to be a combat veteran now that he's in a civilian role? Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that you're incorrect because, again, I see your side of this. Fully see your side of this. It's like, if I were to give the benefit of the doubt,
there's room.
There's plenty of room for benefit of the doubt.
I think the other thing is his comment that he's not going to touch anything.
That is suspicious. That's just flat out suspicious. Because it's your house. What you mean you ain't touch anything? Your DNA all in there anyway.
Exactly. So investigators began digging in to figure out how this could have happened, who could be behind this. Because like I said, this is the beloved arts teacher. She ain't do nothing to anybody.
Facts.
And so they began combing the scene for evidence. And unfortunately, they wouldn't find much aside from a bloody shoe print and evidence that the killer had used a 9mm gun. They weren't able to pick up really DNA or fingerprints.
Before you continue, I have a quick question. Do we know the caliber of gun that was stolen from their house 6 months before this incident?
We actually don't.
Interesting. Okay. I asked just because I was wondering if this robbery was at all connected to the gun that was used. So if we don't know, I'll leave it there. But
yeah, and I will say though, that is still something that police are considering, even if it isn't the same caliber of gun. Did the person that broke in recently decide to come back and came upon Desiree thinking that the house was empty? But at this point, it's unclear. After an autopsy, investigators would estimate that Desiree had died sometime between 9 a.m. Saturday, April 6th and 3:30 a.m. Sunday, April 7th. I'm assuming 9 a.m. is shortly after when Scott left for the funeral, because we do know that she'd spoken to her mom, Connie, at 10:30 Friday night, and Scott was there Friday night.
Okay.
So that's why I'm assuming Scott left for the funeral sometime shortly before 9 a.m.
Makes sense.
So like I said, at first, investigators were like, okay, maybe this was wrong place, wrong time. And that person who broke into the house before came back and got spooked when they realized Desiree was there. However, as they began looking into Desiree's life, they realized that everything wasn't as it seemed. Specifically, their interviews with Scott revealed surprising details about the couple's life. Mind you, investigators were already looking at Scott sideways because he'd waited outside his house, supposedly worried about his wife for 20 minutes, despite being an armed combat veteran. There is room for benefit of the doubt. Ain't much.
But there's plenty of room for suspicion.
Exactly. So they're not saying he did it. They're just looking at him sideways.
A little side eye.
And on top of this, when Scott was alone in the interrogation room, investigators noticed Scott doing deep breathing techniques and seemingly trying to emotionally prepare himself for the interview. Again, don't mean you're guilty. There's room for benefit of the doubt. The room is getting smaller.
There's just as much room for suspicion.
The room is a studio apartment in New York City. It's there, but it's tiny.
Studio in New York is crazy. I pray for y'all every night.
So the interview gets started. Scott starts telling the investigators his side of the story. You know, he went to the Tri-Cities for a funeral, spent the night so he could go to a breakfast, got the alarm notifications early in the morning, didn't think anything of it until he couldn't reach Desiree, yada, yada, yada. Then the detective is like, so did you stay with like your uncle or something? And Scott's like, oh no, I actually stayed with a friend, a female friend. And at first he's like, oh, we just have a platonic relationship. And then he's like,
no, I actually stayed with a friend, but let's see.
What's the friend's name?
Oh, her name's Paige. She's a mutual friend.
But this so-called friend was actually someone much more.
Was it just a platonic friendship, or did you have a sexual relationship with Paige?
You know, I shouldn't go there because it's kind of rude, but well, Des didn't want me to say anything to anybody, but she kind of had mixed feelings, and if I'll do anything, but that's one thing I can't provide for her. So at one point, her and Paige had a little thing going for a while there, a little experiment.
Okay, so it was Desiree and Paige who had this relationship.
Yeah.
But not you and Paige, or
we all did.
Sometimes you and Paige too.
Honestly, we all did.
Okay.
Now, sir, one, they always have a female friend. They always conveniently have this female friend, very conveniently, that they're staying with, and you prior had a throuple, more or less.
mm-hmm. But despite the sexual / romantic nature of their relationship, Scott claimed that when he spent the night recently, he slept on the couch and he did not have sexual relations with that woman that night.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman. One of the most iconic lines ever spoken in American history.
Right.
In the English language. But also, I'm going to go ahead and retract my benefit of the doubt, because in my head, I know you said that he was a combat vet, but I had a different image of that man in my head. That's a big ass man, y'all. I'm not gonna sit here and think that, like, I didn't think he was like no 5'2" combat vet, something like that. But like in my head, he was not as large of a man as what you just showed me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm taking that away too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking that away too.
Yeah, the room is getting smaller. We got a closet now.
We are down to a closet.
So detectives bring Paige Blades in for an interview. This is the mistress. Sorry. This is the third in their relationship, supposedly.
No, girl, she's the mutual friend now. She's not a third anymore. You know?
She's just a mutual friend who they both happen to allegedly have sex with.
Right. Exactly. As one does.
This mutual friend says that she and Scott did have sexual relations that night. But she does affirm his statement that she, Scott, and Desiree were in a consensual throuple relationship. However, when detectives would review phone records, both Scott and Paige's account of things were thrown into question. At one point, Desiree texted Paige saying that she was uncomfortable with how close Paige and Scott were. Quote, "Your guys' comfort level is much higher than I'm okay with." End quote. And mind you, Paige responded to this text with something like, "Yeah, I understand that, but you know, if I wanted to sleep with him, I could. I just don't because he's married."
Look here, whore. Look here, ho.
Mm-hmm. Heifer. Actually, I think heifer is a fitting term.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. This is why I'm convinced that God don't put me in certain situations, because he knows that I would drag it to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Because if a woman ever had the audacity to look me dead in my eyeballs and say to me, "I just don't sleep with your husband because he's married, but I could sleep with him if I wanted to," I would black out. I would black out. I wouldn't remember what happened.
Right.
And then all of a sudden she was unconscious on the floor.
Right. Bold statement to say it over text too.
To say in writing to your alleged third, who you're also sleeping with.
Allegedly.
Girl, stop. Girl, stop.
And we're not the only ones not buying it. Desiree's mom, Connie, was like, "My daughter don't do that. She would never have participated in something like that." I will say though, parents don't know everything.
I agree. I do think parents don't know everything.
There are things that my parents would think I would never do. And I cannot say if I have or have not done them, but I will just say that.
I agree. And I will just say I have done them. So I love you, mom and dad. But here's the thing too. There is a level of, and maybe my parents are very like, now they've chilled out a lot now that they don't actually have to raise any kids. And so I think there is a level of parents still having an understanding of like, I don't think they would ever do that, but I could see them doing that.
Right.
Like my parents are those people. So like even the things that my parents would think I couldn't do, if you told them, they would probably be like, actually, I could see it.
Yeah.
I would have hoped she didn't do it, but I could see it. And that's not the vibe here. Mom is like, hell no. Because that also sounds like to me, even if we take out like the sexual like aspect of it, even if she allegedly was sleeping with Paige, mom sounds like she ain't no third kind of girl. She ain't no let's bring somebody else into our marriage and our relationship kind of girl, which I could believe mom would know.
Right. And there are also people who are just a lot more forthcoming with their parents about the intimate details of their lives. And it's also possible, not saying this happened, but it is also possible that maybe Desiree brought this up to her mom, being like, yeah, Scott has this friend and she's nice to me, but I feel like she's a little too close to Scott. That also could happen.
I fully believe that could happen. That's something I would tell my mama.
But yeah, that's all speculation. We don't know that for sure.
For sure.
But either way, all the attention is on Scott and Paige now. But investigators don't actually have any evidence of their involvement. They just have suspicion. They were each other's alibis. And the shoe print didn't match either of their shoe sizes or any of the shoes that they owned. On top of this, Paige's phone records didn't place her anywhere near the scene. However, more than a year after Desiree's murder, a tip would finally come through Crime Stoppers. Someone claimed that they knew who had killed Desiree Sunford. And who did this tip come from? None other than Paige Blades, the mistress.
I knew it. I was just about to say Paige snitching, because, never commit a crime with your mistress, because the first time you screw her over, she gonna rat you out. I'm not saying that's what happened, but if it is what happens, I'm about to be real excited because I love justice.
So Paige claimed that her best friend, Marty Dean Grismer, had confessed to the murder. According to Paige, Marty was obsessed with her and had killed Desiree because he believed Paige was pregnant with Scott's child, and he thought that Desiree would cause problems if she found out, and that killing her was the only way to prevent these problems. Paige cooperated with investigators, and they tried to set her up with a wire to record Marty's confession, but when she talked to him, he denied everything. Also, when police brought Marty in for an interrogation, he continued to deny everything and said Paige must be trying to set him up. However, Marty's employer would end up calling police and report that they'd found a plastic bag with a 9mm gun barrel in his office desk. A ballistics analysis would match this barrel to the bullets found at the scene of Desiree's murder. Further investigation of his workstation would uncover shoes that matched the size and brand of the bloody shoe print and items that were stolen in the initial burglary. In November 2014, more than a year after Desiree's murder, Marty Grismer was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and felony murder.
Hold the hell up. Hold the hell up.
I'm holding.
Look here, friend. You have told me some stories that don't make no sense. Some explanations that don't make no sense. Let me correct myself. Because this explanation makes even less sense than Darren's explanation on why he killed Jamie Faith. Please go back and watch that 2-part episode if you haven't. His reasoning didn't make any sense whatsoever. And Homeboy's reasoning, allegedly, makes even less sense. And let's also talk about how you're telling me that for a year, and actually almost 2 years, because allegedly you broke into the house the first time, that's the story we're going with, you've just been harboring that evidence in your desk at work for 2 years? Be for real. Be so for real.
You have a gun barrel,
but no gun? Real interesting.
Something stinks.
Stank like hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a little annoyed. I understand why they would have to arrest him, because at the end of the day, they do have circumstantial evidence. But police, y'all telling me that this story don't stank like hell? It's real convenient And it stank like hell.
It stank.
Mm-mm.
But I agree. It does not make sense. But like you said, that's the evidence that they have to work with. So they move forward with trying to prosecute him. And if found guilty of the first-degree murder charge, Marty was looking at a mandatory life sentence without the chance of parole. His trial was scheduled for January 8th, 2018, and had been pushed back nearly 10 times prior to this date due to factors like waiting on evidence and changes in attorneys. The prosecution was essentially mounting a case that Marty's obsession with Paige had driven him to kill Desiree. However, in late 2017, Marty chose to enter an Alford plea to second-degree murder. And if you don't know, when someone enters an Alford plea, they're basically saying, I'm not saying I'm guilty, but I can see that you have enough evidence that a jury could find me guilty. And prosecutors were also kind of pushing for this plea because they apparently had testimony from a jailhouse informant who said that Marty had confessed to trying to frame Scott, but this informant refused to testify because of stated gang ties.
Everything makes less and less sense.
Yeah.
I'm so stressed out. No, don't take the plea. Where I'm sitting right now, I'm not going to say that he didn't do it because circumstantial evidence is whatnot, but it's giving setup. It just is. Again, you telling me this man been harboring evidence for 2 years instead of selling stuff on the black market? If he's bold enough to break into somebody's house and kill them, you think he's going to keep all the evidence?
Right. And the other thing too, Marty apparently don't know Scott. How did he know Desiree was going to be home alone?
Come on now. Unless Paige told him.
Exactly.
And I'm so sorry. We have to scroll back a little bit because I don't feel like I ranted about this the way that I should have. So you're telling me I'm obsessed with a woman who has fallen pregnant by the husband of another woman. And instead of killing the husband that I'm obsessed with, who is actually sleeping with the pregnant woman, I kill that man's wife who has nothing to do with this and has outwardly stated that y'all's relationship is too damn friendly.
Right.
Did I get that correct?
Yes, you did get that correct.
And this is the argument that they were prepared to put in front of a jury of his peers?
Yes.
And claim that all made sense?
Yes.
So the world is going to hell in a handbasket.
I will also say, keep in mind that at this point, this was late 2017, Marty has probably been in jail for about 3 years now. I get it. Similar to Young Thug.
Oh, yeah.
He been in jail. He want to be out. And Marty, even though he's saying he didn't do it, he's like, they very well could convict me. And it also sounds like he might not have had good defense. Considering the changes in attorneys, he might not have had good defense and lawyers who didn't believe in him. Lawyers who were probably like, you should just take the plea. You should just take the plea.
Right. And I could 100% believe that. But I don't know. Maybe this is just me and I ain't no attorney. I just feel like the story is so stupid that you just attack the motive and like the convenience of the evidence. And like I'm sitting here with reasonable doubt right now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't convict that man of anything.
Yeah. But I also don't know what evidence they were allowed to bring in.
True.
Can they bring up the fact that the husband was having an affair? Can they bring up the fact that the person who's having an affair with is the best friend? They probably can bring up the connection to some extent, but probably not enough to sow the doubt that we have right now because we have the information.
I think they would have to, because if the story is allegedly that he did it because Paige fell pregnant, you have to say who Paige fell pregnant to, which would put you at a direct connection to the victim of Desiree.
Yeah.
You would have to, the jury would have to know all that story, because if you don't have those two, then you can't connect Marty to Desiree.
Yeah.
And that's going to create reasonable doubt. You have to create the chain.
Yeah. But can you say, oh, the husband waited outside 20 minutes. The husband at first lied about. So we have more doubt in Scott and Paige because of the information we have. But I don't know that they could bring that information in front of the jury. They can bring the fact that he was cheating on her. He was having the affair. But I don't know if they could bring all that other information. And they do have the evidence that like the bloody shoe print was not matched to anybody else but this person. The gun barrel, even though it's strange, he had it at his workstation. The gun barrel matched the bullet that was used to kill Desiree. That gun barrel was found at his workstation. Mm-hmm. His defense might be able to say he don't know how it got there. Somebody might have planted it, but that's not as convincing to a jury.
I think I understand the arguments that you're making for sure. But honestly, I don't even think you have to talk about Scott's weird movements of like not going into the house and anything like that to still get to reasonable doubt for me, because my reasonable doubt would be, you're telling me this man stole jewelry and a gun from your house and he still has the items. We don't know what he still had, right? But to me, that doesn't make any sense for him to still have them, because usually when people break into your home and steal your expensive items, they sell them. You know, they're gone forever. A laptop gone forever. You'll never see that again because they pocketed the money. So again, like that is suspicious to me. Because, and again, it's like, even if I don't know, even if Scott took the stand and claimed to be, I don't think they'd have a reason to call him by any means, but like, let's say this is crazy world where Scott gets called and he does all the waterworks and he's just a victim who was cheating on his wife, and some crazy man decided to kill his wife that he was cheating on. The argument that the prosecution is making doesn't make any sense. And that's where my issue is. It's actually got nothing to do with Scott. It has everything to do with the fact that like your chosen argument is that this man was obsessed with Paige and didn't kill Paige or Scott, but the victim of her husband's cheating. Yeah. Like that's where that enough was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. But I think if you're the one facing life without the possibility of parole, I wouldn't feel comfortable enough for a jury to agree that that doesn't make sense.
No, for sure. And that's where I understand your argument completely, because I'm never upset at people who pull a young thug and take the alpha flea, even though he should have just waited. He should have just waited. He would have got off scot-free, and then he wouldn't be fighting with Atlanta, because now Atlanta's trying to send him back to jail if he wipe his ass wrong. So I'm not upset that he took it, because I understand where he's coming from. It makes me sad that this case screams setup. This case screams it doesn't make any sense. And that somebody's willing to put their bar license on the line to go forward with this case that doesn't make any sense and ruin this man's life on an argument that just factually doesn't make any sense. And he feels like the only way that he could ever have potential to live his life again is to take the plea.
Right.
And that also tells me that at least like wherever he's at, 2nd degree murder doesn't get you life in prison. Right. Because like there are some states, Florida is the one I'm the most familiar with, but in Florida, 2nd degree murder is still life.
Yeah. So this is Washington. I'm not familiar with the maximum versus minimum for 2nd degree murder, but I do know that on January 8th, 2018, the date that his trial would have begun, he actually had his sentencing hearing. And of course, prior to the sentencing, the judge would hear victim impact statements. Desiree's mother, Connie, would deliver a very powerful victim impact statement. She told the judge that in trying to comfort her, people would tell her that time would heal her wounds. But, quote, everyone is wrong, because when you lose a child, time does not go on. It comes to a dead halt, end quote. And she looked at Marty and said, quote, Marty, you thought you silenced Desiree by destroying her physical body. Her memory goes on in the hearts of those who loved her, and neither you nor anyone else can destroy that, end quote. She asked the judge to give Marty the harshest sentence and said, quote, I don't know how much pain the human heart can hold, but I have reached my maximum, end quote. Marty didn't speak at his sentencing, and in the end, the judge sentenced him to 15 years in prison. He was also ordered to pay over $14,000 in restitution, and he is currently serving his sentence in the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla. To this day, Marty has maintained his innocence and claimed he was too naive and trusting and had been set up by Paige Blades. As part of the Alford plea, he technically had 1 year to change his mind and fight the murder charge in court, but he didn't choose to do this. There are many people, including Desiree's mother, Connie, and some investigators, that still believe there is an unknown piece of the puzzle and that Marty may not have acted alone. Connie specifically believes that Scott and Paige provided Marty with information about when Desiree would be alone and thinks they all conspired to have her killed. She is personally pissed that Scott is running around all happy-go-lucky because she believes his actions directly caused Desiree's death, whether he planned it or not. And unfortunately, Connie would never get definitive answers as she passed away from heart failure in October 2018, less than a year after Marty's conviction. And that note, she said, is the key to me. regardless of if Scott planned this, he caused it.
Absolutely.
And that's why cheating is dangerous. Not only are you putting your partner's emotional health and sexual health in jeopardy, you are putting their physical health in jeopardy.
Right.
I don't know the percentage, but I feel like it's high. The percentage of true crime cases that in one way or another were caused by somebody cheating.
Oh, I definitely feel like it's high. I've taken a lot of it where it's a cheating situation or cases where people think that their significant others are cheating.
Mm-hmm. Whether it be the person being cheated on killing you, the person being cheated on getting killed by the person you're cheating with, the person you're cheating with getting killed, the person you're cheating with partner killing you, or the partner. It's too many variables. Keep it in your pants or break up.
Come on now. If you are unhappy, just leave. If you're unhappy in your marriage, in your relationship, just leave. And I know that's real easy for me to say because I'm not married, right? I ain't got no kids running around, things like that. But I refuse to believe that you sitting around being unhappy is better than finding somebody else.
Right.
Having to go through the dating pool all over again. We all know how much it sucks to date out here. We all know it's a little ghetto out here. But I would rather deal with the ghetto-ness of having to date and deal with people in the world than coming home to a situation every single day where I'm miserable and unhappy.
Exactly. And the point that you are putting your life and your partner's life, the partner you claim to love, in jeopardy. The worst to me is when people are happy, supposedly, in their relationships and are just like, I'm just bored.
Oh, for sure.
Or they think it's fun.
Oh, for sure. That one pisses me off more because it's like the people who just cheat out of boredom, like who have like significant others who are home for them and there for them, and you just go out and cheat because you can, or you just want it to feel something exciting. Those are the worst for me because to me, it shows me directly how much you care about your partner, about that person.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't care enough about them to just not do something out of boredom.
Right. And I actually saw an Instagram post that was really interesting. We can talk about it real quick and then we'll wrap the case up. And it was basically saying, like, would you stay friends with a person who is consistently cheating on their partner?
No.
And my answer is no, because this is a person you're supposed to love the most. And this is how you treat them.
So who the hell am I?
Exactly. And there was a whole bunch of cheaters and cheater enablers in the comments. Because someone was like, my friend's romantic relationship has no impact on me. That's none of my business. Da, 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 da. It actually is. I'm not saying I need to be up in your relationship knowing the ins and outs, but I know you want to do this. But if I were to find out that you were cheating on your partner, I would hold you accountable. I'm not saying necessarily you have to snitch on your friend, but you should be saying, girl, that's not right.
For sure.
And if they continue to do it, remove yourself from that relationship.
For sure. And again, it's like one of those things where I just firmly believe if this person is perfectly comfortable cheating on their partner and lying to their partner, doing dirty things to their partner, who are you? They will turn around and do dirty things to you. They will lie on you and lie to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the point?
Right.
And like for me, because I've had friends, I have ended friendships over friends cheating on their significant others. Not because I snitched or anything like that, but because I was that friend that was like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
And if you're going to keep doing this, you need to break up with homeboy, or you need to leave him, or you need to ask to open the relationship or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, cheaters hate being called out in every way possible. Even if you come at it from a place of like, you know that's not right, go make it right and stop cheating on this man.
Right.
Right? And it's always crazy to me, people who have the sense of like, oh, it's none of my business, it's not my relationship. And it's like, okay, reap what you sow. Because now when your significant other starts cheating on you and nobody tells you, don't say nothing.
Exactly.
Don't be upset. Don't call me crying. Don't do any of that. Because when your friend was cheating on their significant other, you said it wasn't your business.
Exactly.
So everybody else's friends, when they start cheating on you, ain't their business either.
Right. But we definitely want to hear y'all's thoughts on this too. Like, what is your stance on this? If you knew your friend was cheating on their significant other, would you continue to feel safe in that friendship? Let us know.
But to pivot back to the case, right? I want to make something clear because I thought about this as I was going through the episode and I was getting really upset. I don't want to come off across as I don't think Marty murdered Desiree, right? I don't want it to come across as like, oh, this man is completely innocent. He's factually innocent, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to think that. What I want to make clear is that I think this man was set up.
Yeah.
And I think people who conspired with this man to commit this murder have not seen justice. That's what I think. That is my opinion.
Mhm.
And best believe, I by no means want murderers to get off and go live their best lives and whatever else, right? So just like I would want to see all the evidence. Like, it's one of those things too where, because it's again an Alford plea, and I genuinely am one of those people who like will wait for you to prove to me that that person did it, because that never happened. And like, I'm just kind of like going off of like what the proposed arguments were and the proposed evidence is. It's just all really shaky to me.
Yeah.
I'm not at beyond a reasonable doubt. There is a world where Marty killed Desiree all on his own because he was obsessed with Paige. There is a world where that happens. There's also a world where Paige told Marty that she was pregnant by Scott and that he needed to get rid of Desiree so that she could be with Scott, right? There's also a world where Scott and Paige conspired with Marty to kill Desiree. All of these are possible, but we never got a trial. We never got all the evidence. Nothing ever kind of finalized in a way, because he took an Alford plea. And the Alford plea is basically, I ain't saying I did it, but I guess you could say I did.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what it is. And so I just want to make that clear. I'm not saying that Marty's 100% innocent. I'm not. I'm just saying that this case reeks to me. It's stanky. It's not sitting well in my spirit. And again, I believe, it is my personal belief and my personal opinion, that people who were more involved in Desiree's death have yet to see justice.
I completely agree with that. There is too much reasonable doubt.
Yes.
Full stop.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we don't have much more information that lends to one theory versus another. But we do know that Scott Sunford and Paige Blades are no longer together.
Of course not. Of course not. They never end up with the mistress. They never end up with the mistress. They never end up with the person that they ruined somebody else's life for, that they took somebody else's life for. They never end up together. Ever.
It was also revealed that the baby Paige was pregnant with was not Scott's, but belonged to one of her ex-boyfriends.
So I was right to call you a whore at the beginning. Not slut shaming, just her specifically.
And if any of our viewers and listeners are interested, there's actually an interview with Paige on Crime Watch Daily with Jason Matera as an interviewer. And when I tell you, he does not hold back. If there is any justice, it was through this interview. And to give y'all a taste, here is just a snippet of the interview.
Nervous?
Extremely.
Why?
I don't talk about it very much.
In fact, this mystery woman has never talked publicly before about what happened to Desiree Sunford.
How close do you and Desiree get?
Extremely.
Many people believe she knows all the answers and all the dark secrets.
What did he actually confess to?
He told me eventually everything.
But I'm beginning to wonder if she'll ever tell the truth.
There was a lot of anger.
You can stop the tears. You know I don't buy a word you're saying.
Big purr. Big purr. Also, I have to, because I do hair.
If y'all aren't watching this on YouTube, if y'all aren't watching this on YouTube, you don't know why this is so funny, but just know the wig she is wearing, I guess you could call it wearing, the wig she is wearing in this interview is doing no justice.
That Lego ass wig.
Lego ass wig is crazy. Lego ass wig is crazy.
That is a Minecraft block wig.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord.
I didn't realize that Minecraft came out with a hairline.
Stop. Oh Lord.
Bro, I got lightheaded.
Daniel, Jay hit you that fast? No, that shit was funny though. That shit was funny. Oh my God. You said said that Lego ass wig.
Hold on, I gotta put myself together. I'm so sorry. I couldn't. Oh, it was really hard for me to like focus in because I was like, damn. Damn, my girl really came up to the interview thinking that she was eating with this one. She said, I'm coming in with the blobs. I'm coming in with the blonde stiff wig. They gonna believe me.
Oh my God.
Oh God. And that's just a snippet of the things you can see on our Patreon.
So that was just a snippet of the interview. And like I said, he was not holding back. I actually haven't seen the full thing because I wanted to wait to watch it with Dev and react to it with her. So we're actually going to be recording that reaction and putting it on our Patreon. So if you want to hear more of the foolishness, want to hear Paige get called out, subscribe to our Patreon and watch the video with us.
Because if you thought this snippet was funny, I'm sure I'm going to have a lot to say. I'm going to have a lot of jokes. I can already feel it. And we watched, 15 seconds of that interview?
Yeah.
Oh, girl, it's going downhill fast. I can already feel it.
So to wrap up this case, Desiree's funeral was held a couple weeks after her death on April 20th, 2013. And as of 2016, they were struggling to pay off her funeral expenses and purchase a tombstone, noting that other responsible parties hadn't paid their share. We don't know who those responsible parties are. If I had to guess, I could guess someone. We don't know who.
Yeah, we don't know who.
Her family and loved ones are still pained by her sudden death. And I'm going to end this case with a quote from her mother, Connie. Quote, "Our hearts stopped hemorrhaging, but they will never heal." End quote. And that is the case of Desiree Sunford.
Wow, friend, that's so sad. One, I just feel so awful for Desiree. Like, Cam remembers I was very much the art kid in school. I was an art nerd. I loved it. My senior year art teacher, because my old art teacher didn't like me, but my senior year art teacher really put a lot of care and love into artistry and like really let us fully explore what art meant to us. Right. And I even think about, I'm blanking on her name right now, but I even think about our art teacher in middle school who was that same way, just like super encouraging of like, express, do something fun. Why not? The worst it can do is look bad and then you'll just start over.
Yeah.
And art teachers specifically like are notoriously the cool, fun teacher, are notoriously everybody's favorite teacher. And it sounds like Desiree was that person. Like, she loved going to work. She loved being there and being active and just being the cool, fun art teacher. She did not deserve to leave this earth the way that she did. She did not deserve for her case to be handled the way that it was. And again, this is all speculation and my thoughts and opinions on the matter, but this case just doesn't sit right with me. And I think this is the first case that we've covered that truly doesn't sit right with me. How it was handled, how it went about, who's sitting in jail and who's not, just doesn't sit right with me. But the biggest thing I can hope is that her family gets the peace they deserve. But I wish them peace. I wish them healing. I hope that, this case is several years old, but I do hope that they were able to get her that tombstone. I do hope that they were able to pay off the debt that came with burying her. And I just hope to one day hear this case and hear justice, because there are cases that get solved 20 years later because man's own hubris will always sink them. And I refuse to believe that what you put into the world does not come back at you tenfold. And I hope to one day hear an update on this case that actually makes sense.
Same. And you're right. It could take 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20. But I do believe that one day justice will come for Desiree. And it may not even be justice in the form that we will know about.
There you go.
But justice will come one day.
Completely agree. As we wrap up today's discussion, we're going to move into our segment called Today in Crime, where we'll discuss a crime or crime-related event that took place on this day. So, on November 21st, 2021, Darrell E. Brooks Jr. sped through a police barricade and drove into the Christmas parade crowd in Waukesha, Wisconsin, killing 6 people and injuring more than 60. Darrell Brooks was sentenced on October 26, 2022, after being found guilty of 76 charges, including 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide, and faces a mandatory life sentence on each of those homicide counts. The 6 victims who were killed were 8-year-old Jackson Sparks, who was marching in the parade with his baseball team, Leanna Owen, Virginia Sorensen, and Tammy Duran, members of the Dancing Granny, Wilhelm Bill Hospel, husband to a surviving Dancing Granny member, and Jane Coolidge, described by her family as a die-hard Green Bay's Packer fan. Now, I do want to take some time, as me and Cam love to do on this podcast, and give you guys a little bit more information about each of the victims. But before we do that, I got a lot of smoke from Mr. Darrell Brooks.
Because wasn't the whole thing that prompted this, like, he got in a fight with his ex-girlfriend or something?
His underage ex-girlfriend? Yes, that one. That's
Isn't he like 30-something?
Correct. I will say, let me correct myself. She was of age at the time of the incident, not when he impregnated her, though, because they have a child together. So we always knew you were a terrible person because you're a pedophile.
Right.
That's a fact. And you're on the registry. So I don't even have to say that's alleged. You're a pedophile. You're a sex offender. And you took advantage of a child.
On top of doing all of this. And then chose to do one of the dumbest and boldest things, which is represent yourself, and made a damn fool of himself.
One of the most insulting. This is a murder trial.
Right.
You have changed the lives of your entire community forever. This is a murder trial. You killed a child.
Right.
And clearly have no remorse. Clearly think everybody's doing everything to you. And here's the thing, right? It's not just stupid that you represented yourself. It's insulting. Because it shows how much you care about the victims. How much respect you have for the victims. Victims who had full lives and families and full lives ahead of them. Because your oldest victim may have been in their 80s, but your youngest was 8.
Right. And even for the victims in their 80s, they still have life ahead of them. They still had things to contribute. And not only did you change your community, you really changed the country and the world, because people look at parades differently. And unfortunately, there have been other similar attacks that have happened with people ramming cars into large groups of people. We're already dealing with mass shootings. Now we got to add something else to the list. Putting people on edge, making it so that people don't want to go out to events like this because they don't know what can happen.
Exactly. And not even just the social side of it, but now there is a financial part of this, because now we have to pay to have crazy amounts of security around parades now.
Yeah.
It's not safe to have parades without grandiose police barricades anymore. Not to say that Waukesha is a small town by any means, but the people of Waukesha seem to be incredibly lovely, incredibly loving, especially how they came together after this incident, and to take what was such a beloved, quote unquote, small town event. It wasn't a small town event, but you guys understand the vibe of what I'm saying, and you've ruined it. And I am proud of Waukesha, though, for not having it.
Right.
They said, we will not let you take this away from us. We will still have our dancing grannies. We will still celebrate our children. We will still do what we need to do as a community to feel whole. You will not take this away from us. And that is beautiful. But yeah, Darrell, eat and die.
Yes. But to tell you about the people who truly matter in this case, the victims, Dev is going to read out statements about their lives and quotes from their loved ones.
Witnesses said Wilhelm, who was 81 at the time of the incident, was walking in the parade with his wife and handing out water to the, quote, Milwaukee dancing grannies, end quote. Quote, I am heartbroken to share my Uncle Bill was one of the victims of the parade massacre in Waukesha. My Aunt Lola was one of the dancing grannies, end quote. His relative wrote on Facebook, quote, she was injured as well, but will be physically okay. Uncle Bill was the youngest of 4 brothers, all of whom lived in the Milwaukee area though the two oldest escaped to Florida in the winters. They all would get together a few times a year to catch up and reminisce, end quote. Bill was born in Germany. He was also known for helping out at their shows. Bill is survived by his wife, son, 3 brothers, and other family members. Virginia Sorensen, who was 79 at the time of the incident, was the leader of the Milwaukee Dancing Grannies. She was a retired nurse. Her granddaughter posted a tribute on Facebook in her honor, saying, quote, "My grandmother taught me everything I need to know in life. So happy and proud to be following in her footsteps as a nurse," end quote. She also wrote, quote, "I'll become the best nurse possible in her honor," end quote. Her daughter also wrote, quote, "We are absolutely devastated," end quote. Virginia is also survived by her husband, Dave. Leanna Owen, who was 71 at the time of the incident, was another member of the Milwaukee Dancing Grannies. She was a mother of 2 and grandmother of 3. Quote, "She was kind, loving, and lit up every room she was in," end quote. Her son, Chris Owens, told CNN. He was at the parade watching both his mother and daughter participate. Chris said his mother was a part of the Dancing Grannies for 12 years and loved every minute of it, noting that she would never miss a practice. Leanna was a manager at Packard Glen Apartments in suburban Milwaukee for almost 10 years. She is survived by several family members. Tammy Duran, who was 52 at the time of the incident, was also a member of the Milwaukee Dancing Grannies. Tammy was a vibrant, loving, and warm woman who we all miss deeply already. Her memory will bring joy to all who knew her, end quote. Her husband, Dave, told WISN 12. She also worked as a hospice and critical care chaplain. According to WISC News, Tammy saved a homeless man from drowning in the Wisconsin River in 2009. Her husband told the Daily Beast it was Tammy's first time dancing with the other grannies. Quote, "She literally danced her way through life. She was the youngest one of the dancing grannies. Dancing was her favorite thing," end quote. Tammy is survived by her husband, 9 children, and 4 grandchildren. Jane Coolidge, who was 52 at the time of the incident, was representing her Citizens Bank in the parade. Quote, "Jane was a mother and grandmother who joined the bank just over a year ago," end quote, the bank shared on Facebook. Quote, "In that time, she shared her bright spirit with everyone around her. Now we wish to bring support to Jane's family in the wake of this unimaginable loss," end quote. She was also a longtime server at the Dave's Family Restaurant in Waukesha. And finally, Jackson Sparks, just 8 years old at the time of the incident, and his older brother, Tucker, were marching in the parade with their baseball team when they were struck. Jackson died on November 23rd, 2021, 2 days later, after going through brain surgery. Tucker sustained a fractured skull and recovered after intensive care. Jackson Sparks is survived by his parents. And that is what happened on this day in crime. If you found this story interesting, leave a heart emoji in the comments.
Any other thoughts, friend?
Nope, that's all I've got.
Thank you to our listeners for joining us on this episode. I would especially like to thank NBC Dateline, the Yakima Herald Republic, and the True Crime News Channel for providing most of the material for this episode. If you'd like to check out photos related to this case, follow us at Criminalish Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Listeners, if you like what you hear, be sure to leave a 5-star review wherever you're listening to the Criminalish Podcast. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave any comments or questions. As always, stay nosy, my friends. Bye.
Bye.